It wasn't curiosity that took Muna to the boutique that day. It was dignity. She needed to see the woman who had wrecked her home, not to fight, not to plead, but to understand the face Ibuka had chosen over everything they had built together. Ngozi had mentioned it in passing. She runs a boutique on Chief Omudo Street. Very fancy. I saw Ibuka coming out of there one evening. That must be her. And so, on a bright Wednesday morning, Muna walked into that boutique wearing a plain wrapper and a simple blouse. Her scarf was loosely tied. She wasn't there to impress. The glass doors parted into a world of luxury, marble tiles, gold-framed mirrors, glass shelves with lace, silk, and perfumes. Behind the counter stood a tall, light-skinned woman with expensive braids and red lipstick that could blind the sun. Chidinma. She looked exactly how Muna imagined her, flawless, poised, and completely unbothered. "Good morning," Chidinma greeted with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You're welcome to Chilok's boutique. How can I help you?" Muna stepped forward slowly. "You're Chidinma?" She blinked, confused for a second, then smiled again. "Yes, that's me." There was a pause. A long, dangerous pause. Muna's voice was soft. "I'm Muna. Ibuka's wife." Silence. The air tightened. Even the walls seemed to lean in. "Oh," Chidinma said coolly. "So you're the first wife?" Muna nodded. Chidinma tilted her head. "You didn't come to fight, did you?" "Because I don't do market drama." Muna didn't blink. "I'm not here to fight. I came to look at the woman my husband destroyed everything for." Chidinma crossed her arms. "He came to me. I didn't chase him." "And you said yes," Muna said, still calm. "You said yes, knowing he was married. Knowing he had a daughter. You said yes to becoming a wife, to a man already tied to another." Chidinma rolled her eyes. "You village wives think men belong to you. Newsflash, men take what they want." Muna's lip trembled. Not from fear. From rage she was holding back with every bone in her body. "You're right," she said finally. "Men do take what they want. But only women with no sense of self allow themselves to be taken like items in a shop." That one hit. Chidinma's smile faded. "He loves me." Muna stepped closer. "He told me that too. Every night. Until he didn't. Let's see what he tells you when he finds another one." Chidinma stiffened, her jaw tightening. Muna gave a small, tired smile. "I just wanted to see you. And now I have. You're not special. You're just next." With that, Muna turned and walked out. Her legs shook, but she didn't let it show. Her tears were boiling just behind her eyes, but they wouldn't fall, not here. Not in front of her. Outside, the sun was hot. People bustled by. Life continued. But inside Muna, something else had ended, and something new had begun. Back at her uncle's house, she sat on a bench under a mango tree. She felt hollow. Her aunt, Mama Ifioma, approached with a tray of palm oil soup and ibie. "You've not eaten all day," the woman said gently. Muna shook her head. "Come, my daughter," Mama Ifioma urged. "Eat. You need strength. You are not the first woman to be betrayed. But if you stop living because of a man's foolishness, you will lose yourself twice." Muna looked up slowly. Mama Ifioma smiled. "You will rise. Maybe not today. But soon. This pain will pass. And when it does, he will regret ever letting you go." That night, Muna dreamt of a mirror shattering. But this time, she wasn't trying to piece it back together. She was walking away from it.
Muna sat at the edge of the bed, in her uncle's spare room, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above her. Somto was asleep beside her, fingers curled around a small stuffed bear. The house was peaceful, but her heart wasn't. It had been 3 days since she visited Chidinma's boutique, and still Her chest tightened each time she thought about it. The face of that woman, smiling, untouched, entitled, reminded her that life wasn't always fair, that sometimes a woman's pain came not from what was taken from her, but from the choice to stay behind after it happened. The logical thing to do was leave. Everyone told her so. Her friend Ngozi had said, "Muna, don't go back. That house is no longer a home. It's a graveyard." Her aunt, Mama Ifeoma, gave a more measured response. "Marriage is a storm. Sometimes you anchor, sometimes you row. But if the ship is sinking, you must swim." Muna listened, but she hadn't decided. She thought about Somto, about what leaving would do to her, about how the little girl still asked, "When will Daddy come and take us home?" with innocent hope. Then she thought about Ibuka, not the man who betrayed her, but the one she married, the one who once held her hand when her mother died, the man who painted her toenails when she was heavily pregnant, the man who knew how much crayfish she liked in her soup. Could that man be reached again? She didn't know. But what if, just what if, she left and never healed? What if she stayed and never recovered? The next day, she returned to their house. Ibuka wasn't expecting her. He was sitting on the front steps, head bowed, cigarette between his fingers, something he hadn't done in years. When he saw her, he stood abruptly, eyes wide. "Muna, I'm not here to talk," she said. He stepped aside without a word. She walked past him into the house. It smelled like loneliness and dust. She entered the bedroom. Everything was as she left it. Neatly folded wrappers, pressed curtains, a photo of their wedding on the wall. She placed her bag down and sat on the bed. Her hands trembled. Later that evening, Ibuka knocked softly. "Can I come in?" She didn't answer, but he came in anyway. He stood at the door like a stranger. "Thank you for coming back." "I didn't come back for you," she said calmly. "I came back for my daughter, for myself, to finish what I started." He swallowed. "I understand." She looked up. "Do you? Because you lost something, and I don't know if you even realize it yet." Ibuka walked forward slowly. "I do. Every morning I wake up without your voice in this house. I realize it." Muna's eyes narrowed. "You didn't lose me when I walked out. You lost me when you said nothing, when you watched me cry and stayed silent. You lost me when you let someone else wear lace while I wore heartbreak." He sat down on the edge of the bed, hands clenched. "I will do anything to fix this." She shook her head. "Some things can't be fixed, only lived with." There was silence. Then Muna said, "We'll live in the same house, but not as husband and wife. You will not touch me. You will not speak to me unless it concerns Somto, and you will not bring her here. Ever." Ibuka blinked. "Her?" She looked him straight in the eye. "Your second wife. Your mistake. Your legacy of shame." Ibuka nodded slowly, his shoulders slumping. "I'll respect that." "You don't have a choice," she replied. That night Muna lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling once again. But this time, her daughter was in her arms, and the silence around her was hers to own. She had chosen to stay. But not as the woman she was before. She stayed as a mother, as a witness, as a woman who had decided that her presence would no longer be about pleasing a man, but about rebuilding herself. The days after Muna's return to the house were quiet, but not peaceful. There were no raised voices, no slammed doors, no drama, only silence. And in that silence, something strange began to happen. Muna started remembering herself. She woke up early, not to make Ibuka's breakfast, but to stretch on the balcony while the sky still held its blue-gray hush. She started jogging again, only 2 blocks at first, then 3. She wore old sneakers and tied her scarf tight against the wind. Each footstep sounded like a rebellion against everything that tried to break her. She still spoke to Ibuka, but only about Somto. Nothing more. She cooked only when she wanted to. She no longer waited for his return or watched the clock for his habits. He noticed. She was glowing differently, not for him, not because of him, but in spite of him. One Saturday afternoon, she attended a women's support group at the community center, encouraged by Mama Ifeoma. The room was full of women of all ages. Some had been through worse. Some were still in it. Muna listened as a woman named Iriti told her story of surviving a 10-year emotionally abusive marriage. The words sliced Muna open in places she didn't know she had scars. When it was her turn to speak, she hesitated. Then she said, "My husband married another woman, while I was still his wife, and somehow I'm the one who felt ashamed." The room went still. Then someone whispered, "You're not alone." And just like that, Muna cried, not tears of weakness, but of release. Years of swallowing pain flowed freely. She didn't wipe them, she let them fall, let them speak. That night, she journaled a line she would read over and over in the months ahead. Healing is remembering who you were before the world tried to make you forget. With time, Muna returned to school with a new energy. Her pupils noticed. Her colleagues noticed. She began a side hustle, private home tutoring. Parents loved her approach. She wasn't just teaching English anymore. She was inspiring self-worth. She bought new clothes, not because she wanted to impress anyone, but because she finally cared about how she felt in her skin. Even Somto noticed. "Mummy," the little girl said one evening, "you laugh more now." Muna smiled, tying Somto's braid. "That's because I'm starting to like who I see in the mirror again." One evening, Ibuka stood by the doorway, watching her prepare lesson notes. "You've changed," he said. She looked up slowly. "Number, I'm just returning." "To what?" "To myself." He nodded, but said nothing more, because he knew. He had watched her rise, quietly, beautifully, without asking him for permission or apology. And something in him mourned, not because she was angry, but because she no longer was. That night, Muna stood before her mirror, in a new dress. Nothing fancy, just simple and soft on her skin. She touched her face gently, no longer searching for cracks, no longer questioning if she was enough. This was a new woman, one who had been to the edge and turned around, not because someone begged her to, but because she chose to.
By the end of the month, Muna had begun to feel something unfamiliar, lightness. She smiled more. Her skin began to glow again. She no longer flinched at Ibuka's presence. Her world, once shattered, had begun to take new shape. But sometimes healing makes you brave enough to look where you once avoided. One quiet afternoon, as she rearranged the bedroom shelf, her hand brushed across a drawer she hadn't touched in weeks. Ibuka's drawer. She opened it, not expecting much. But inside, beneath piles of old receipts and cologne, she found a brown envelope, thick, unsealed. Curious, she opened it. Her name was on the documents. Her signature. But she had never signed them. Bank documents. Loan papers. Land documents. And transfers totaling over 2.8 Nigerian naira million, all in her name. Her heart stopped. She flipped through them faster, a rising wave of dread pushing against her throat. Every page confirmed it. Ibuka had taken multiple loans, using her name and details as guarantor. One of the loan documents was dated 3 days before his wedding to Chidima. Mona sat on the bed, knees weak, her mind spinning. So it wasn't just emotional betrayal. It was financial betrayal. legal betrayal, identity betrayal, and the most chilling part. If any of those loans went bad, she would be held responsible. When Ibuka returned that evening, she didn't raise her voice. She simply placed the documents on the table. "What is this?" she asked quietly. He froze, his face losing color. "Mona. I can explain." She stood, arms folded. "You used my name, my documents. You forged my signature." He reached for the envelope. "I was going to pay it back." "With what?" "Boutique lace. Hotel bills. You took money in my name and spent it on her." Ibuka's voice cracked. "I was under pressure. Chidinma wanted land. Her family was asking for something to show. I didn't want to look like a failure. So you decided to make me the scapegoat." He shook his head quickly. "I swear, Muna, I was going to fix it. I just needed time." She stared at him like she didn't recognize him. "No. You needed character. And you ran out of that long ago." He reached for her hand. "Please don't go to the police. Let me fix it." She pulled away. "Don't insult me with mercy." Ibuka collapsed into a chair, face in his hands. "I didn't want you to find out like this." Muna's voice dropped to a whisper. "You never wanted me to find out. That's the problem." That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay staring at the ceiling while Somto snored gently beside her. She thought about the years, the sacrifices, the blind trust, and the truth that had been hiding in plain sight, in drawers, in behavior, in silence. She rose quietly at 3 a.m. and sat on the balcony, listening to the wind rustle the leaves. Then she opened her journal and wrote. "Some betrayals are loud. Others are quiet and calculated. And those are the ones that leave deeper scars." The next morning, she dressed in a clean blouse and skirt, packed the documents in a folder, and headed to her lawyer's office. It was time to protect herself. Ibuka had declared war with a smile. She would respond with boundaries.